Welcome to my class on using ChatGPT to innovate in education. Now, one of the things that we're seeing in the news constantly is how ChatGPT is going to destroy education, how it's going to lead to students cheating and all these other things. But I want to show you the opposite side of that story. The story that I believe is really what's going to take place, which is all the innovation that's going to happen on top of these types of tools, these generative AI tools. And I'm really excited about it. So I'm going to dive right in and give you some examples and just walk you through a scenario that hopefully will get you inspired to understand what you're going to learn in this course and how you could use this on a day-to-day basis. Now let's just walk into the tool itself and let's ask ChatGPT to explain ChatGPT. And we get this long answer of it's GPT, it's generative, it's pre-trained, it's transformer, it's ChatGPT, it's model versions, all this complex stuff. Now imagine if I'm teaching, some 9-year-olds in a 4th grade class. How am I going to go and take this and work with those students in it? Well, let's just adapt what we ask. And we're going to use a pattern that you're going to learn in this course called the audience persona. We're just going to ask ChatGPT, explain ChatGPT, but do it to a 9-year-old. Explain it to a 9-year-old. All right? Imagine you have a super smart robot toy. You can talk to it and it talks back. It knows a lot because it's read many books and stories, almost like it's been to a giant library. ChatGPT is like that robot toy, but it lives inside the computer. You type something to it and it gives you an answer or tells you a story. It's not really thinking like humans do. It's just really good at remembering and using all that information it's seen before. You notice how it's completely changed the explanation that it's given and it's targeted it to the audience. So one of the capabilities that you're going to see in this course is the ability to start working and developing content with ChatGPT, but then targeting it to an audience. And this targeting is one of the really exciting things about how we can innovate with ChatGPT in education. One of the things as a teacher that I love is interacting with students, with talking with them, of being in the classroom. And a lot of times I'd really love to personalize that content for students. I know things about them. I'm talking to them. I'm watching them interact. And if I had the time to go and interact and basically customize every single piece of content for every individual student, I know that I could do more powerful teaching. If I could go and meet them exactly at their interests and explain things and concepts that they love and that resonate with them, I could be more effective. Is it taking away who I am as a teacher? No, but imagine if we had the time to go and customize content for every single student. And with these types of tools, we can start doing that. So let's imagine one of those 9-year-olds loves Pokemon. And we'd like to help them understand ChatGPT, but we'd like to do it through concepts from Pokemon. So we can go back and use this pattern that we're going to learn, this pattern of how we interact with ChatGPT or prompt pattern, to explain ChatGPT, but to a 9-year-old interested in Pokemon. So we're adding on even more description, even more personalization of who we're interacting with. And now we get a completely different description. All right, so you know how in Pokemon there's that Pokedex that knows about all the different Pokemon, their moves, and where they can be found? Imagine there's a special Pokedex called ChatGPT Dex. Instead of just telling you about Pokemon, this ChatGPT Dex can tell you can chat with you about almost anything. You can ask it questions like which Pokemon is best against another in a battle. Now, I know a lot and I know a lot about the content, but I don't necessarily keep up on every single, new toy that comes out or new fad that comes out. And I might not be able to go and easily adapt and personalize the content, but I can also see that this content is being personalized. I can see that it is communicating the key concepts that I want it to communicate. And now I've just basically tailored this content for an individual child. But let's take it a step further. What if we have a child with dyslexia, or we have somebody who has particular learning needs that we need to support? How might we go and take this content and think about presenting it differently? And we can follow up on that and get ideas how we might go and do that. Now we would of course read these as educators, talk with other educators about whether or not they make sense, but it gives us a starting point to begin the conversation. Sometimes the hard part is knowing what are the options, and once we have a list of options, we can then go and fact check them and we can talk about what's appropriate. So for example, what are the approaches for better supporting a child with dyslexia when communicating this information? And it gives us a number of things: visual aids, hands-on learning, break information into chunks, use analogies and stories. It gives us a lot of different ideas. Now, how do we take ChatGPT and do something with that? Well, let's make it actionable. So let's think of what we do as educators a lot is we develop lesson plans. And this can take a lot of time and effort. And what if we could use a tool to help us brainstorm lesson plans, to help us produce them faster so that we can spend more time thinking about the really important questions about how we're going to structure and what we're going to talk about, not writing the lesson plans and trying to allocate time. So please give me 3 possible 30-minute lesson plans that use these insights to teach the material to the 9-year-old with dyslexia who loves Pokemon. So not only are we personalizing the content, but we're also personalizing even the individual lesson plan. You can imagine going through and thinking about generating even individual lesson plans for different students. Maybe you need to be able to do personalization within the classroom. And we get a number of lesson plans generated, like Lesson Plan 1, ChatGPT Dex Introduction, introduce the concept of ChatGPT through a Pokemon analogy. Show a picture of a Pokedex and ask the child what it does. Briefly discuss their favorite Pokemon and what the Pokedex says about it. And then it goes through a number of concepts and things that we could do. And now I could look at this and I might not like all of it. For example, it says, describe ChatGPT as a special Pokedex called ChatGPT Dex that knows many things, not just Pokemon. Do I like that? Okay, I think maybe I like that. But then it says use a computer or tablet to let the child type in a simple question about Pokemon and show them how ChatGPT, well, maybe I don't want them to type it in. Maybe I want to type it in interactively. And I can go and I can start thinking about what's going to work and what's not and interacting with it to reshape and reform this lesson plan. But it's giving me a starting point to begin innovating and structuring. Or I could go and look at completely different ones. Like maybe instead I want to focus on that ChatGPT Dex idea, but in how it learns. And I could then start refining this lesson plan and thinking about how do I do something there, or chatting with it. Lots of different ideas. Now I think about what do we do a lot of times is we have to spend a lot of time trying to figure out how do we assess, or how do we build different tools to help students, practice what they've learned. So let's think about how we could do that in sort of a more interesting and interactive way. So I'm going to ask ChatGPT to start an interactive game that's based on what we just learned in the lesson plan. So I'm going to tell ChatGPT, we just finished our lesson. Play an interactive game with me and the child. You will ask me questions that test knowledge of ChatGPT from the lesson. I will read the questions to the child and type in their responses. Adapt your questioning if you see the questions are too easy or too hard. Ask me the first question. So now it's going and generating an interactive kind of fun thing. And it's also kind of fun for me because I don't even know what it's going to ask, but I'm still the mediator, right? I'm also sitting in the middle of the conversation. I'm looking at the questions that are being asked. I'm identifying any issues. And I'm also giving it time to adapt and react and think about how to do this. Okay, and the question 1. In our lesson, we compared ChatGPT to a special device from Pokemon. Can you remember the name of that Pokemon device? Now notice what it does. We think of ChatGPT as something that we ask questions to, that we tell it to do things, but here we flip the script. It's asking us questions. We're asking us questions that we're going to read to the child. And then we go and it waits and we put in our answer. The child answered the ChatGPT index. They were very excited about this. And then it goes through and it tells them, that's absolutely right, great job. And it goes on to the next question. And we could keep doing this, going on, but how else could we leverage this tool as educators, really to do some interesting things and help save us time, to give us more time for those one-on-one interactions, more time thinking about our students and how do we best serve their educational needs? Well, what if we could take these things and really quickly turn them into the concrete products that we need when we go into class? Like, for example, what if we want to take these questions and we want to turn them into some PowerPoint slides so we can display them really big to the class and we can talk about it and interact with them rather than interacting directly through ChatGPT. We want to do it outside. So I decided I would like to turn these questions into PowerPoint slides that I can display to the class on the projector. Can you help me with that? And it says, of course. I'll create a series of PowerPoint slides with the questions and you can project them for class. I'll create about 5 slides so you have a variety of questions to use. And then it gives me this download link right here so that I can download the PowerPoint presentation. So let's take a look at what we got. So what do we see in this PowerPoint presentation? Well, it's gone through it and created a set of slides for us with all the questions. And this might be a better format for us, for example, if we're worried about what ChatGPT is going to say on the fly and whether or not there's going to be a mistake and whether or not we're going to catch it. But we can simply go and create the slides ahead of time and edit them and check the content and make sure that we're comfortable with it. But we still have that ability now to go and generate questions, produce them in a format. And it doesn't take us a lot of effort to go and do this. We're not cutting and pasting. We're not, trying to do a bunch of work. We're actually vastly accelerating what we're doing. Now, what else can we do with ChatGPT that could help us in the classroom? Well, we might want to create a homework based on this lesson plan that we just studied. Can we use ChatGPT to help with that? You know what I would also really love is following up on this personalization, I'd love to be able to come up with a lot of different homeworks that are different options, different ways of learning the material or reinforcing different aspects of it. And I'd love students to be able to select what are they interested in doing, choose one that you would like. But oftentimes it takes a lot of effort to think through and generate one homework. Is there a way to scale this up easier so that I can provide choice to my students? So I'm going to do that through ChatGPT. I'm going to say I would like a fun homework for the students to work on tonight that furthers their, and I have a typo, understanding of how ChatGPT works and the mistakes it can make, just like I made a mistake. Can you give me some ideas? They don't have to involve Pokemon. Give me 5 different options of equivalent difficulty so that I can let each student choose what they like best. And now it comes through and it gives me 5 different options of potential assignments. Now you don't have to just generate assignments and walk away. In fact, you shouldn't. What you should be doing is reading these assignments and thinking about them and thinking about how they can be improved and what's missing or ambiguous. And I look at the AI detective, and I like this one a lot because it really emphasizes this aspect that we can't just take everything on face value. And that's true as us as educators as well. And I look at this and it says, present students with a series of statements or answers that might come from ChatGPT. Some are correct and some have mistakes or misinformation. Follow-up, students should research and identify which statements are accurate and which aren't. They should provide corrections for any errors they find and reflect on what the AI might have, why the AI might have made those mistakes. Now, this is an interesting assignment, but there's a problem, right? It doesn't have the statements. Somebody's going to have to generate them. So let's follow up and refine that idea. And we'll say, hey, number 2 is nice, but why don't you create 5 different statements regarding 4th grade math and add them to the description of the homework? I'm following up as the educator. I'm expanding them and enhancing the assignments, which all of these would require. I'm shaping it based on my knowledge. And I want to emphasize mistakes in ChatGPT, but I want to emphasize them in a context that will be important for them based on other things they're learning, like some math concepts. So it comes up and it says, okay, now we've got the instructions, and here are the math statements down here. It has several statements that have mistakes in them. A rectangle has 5 sides. The angles in a triangle always add up to 360 degrees. And I might look at these and I might say, hey, some of these are good, but some of these are not because they're not really what my students know, or they're not really the right concepts. We're not talking about geometry right now. We're talking about something else, place value, whatever it is. And I could go and edit and manipulate and work with it. And that's what you have to do as an educator, is use it as a starting point for ideas, for refining how you create this content. You don't want to just accept it as face value. You want to take it and use it as a starting point to scale up, to do more personalization, to do more innovation. So I also want to show you that even once we've done that, we can still help automate and create the things that we would want to create. Like, for example, what about the PDF for the homework that I can then send to the printer and print out so that they can take home? I'm going to say, great, now create a PDF that I can print out of this assignment, and it generates the assignment. I can now download it, and then I have something that I could print and give to students to take home. So here's the assignment. It's now in a printable format. I could print it off in the printer, hand it out to them, and I've got something that I can give to them to take home. Now, I want to emphasize something really important that I'm going to talk about in this course, but this is my fundamental belief when we're approaching these tools. It's not about artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is this poor substitute for human reasoning and judgment and creativity. We want to do augmented intelligence. We want to amplify human creativity. We want to take that human spark and we want to make it into a flame. We want to go and take the problems that we can't solve for some reason, and we want to help remove roadblocks to our critical reasoning that prevent us from tackling these problems. We want to help think about information from different perspectives. We want to think about how we can go and scale up great ideas and personalize content for each individual student, how we can find ways of automating these tedious tasks so that we can spend more time as educators with the kids or with our students in college or with other adults or whatever population you're working with, and do a better job in those human connections. It's not about taking away our thinking, our creativity. It's about amplifying. It's about supporting it. It's about building something better. It's about creating an exoskeleton for our minds that allows us to achieve things that we couldn't do before. We want to do more with these tools. We don't want to replace ourselves, because at the end of the day, artificial, as we've seen in foods and all kinds of other things, unfortunately isn't always that great of a substitute for the real thing. This class is all about the real thing, which is about taking real human creativity and intelligence and amplifying it, about taking that exoskeleton for the mind and using it in education.